First thing I notice here is that you have your quotes very nicely set apart from the text. That's I haven't looked inside yet, but I want those integrated into the paragraph. Firstly, to think that being sad can get rid of firstly. To think that being sad can be described with another adjective seems unlikely. Why, if someone is sad, would it need to be described further? In this particular quote, it doesn't make sense with the word wisest. Smart grief doesn't matter. Yeah, but what's the point? Why is he saying it then? If it doesn't make sense. Uh, is said that in order to remember the dead brother, they all as a whole have to think of themselves. Or is he using the royal we here with ourselves? Which is only because once one becomes king, it is not only one, but everything that goes with that honor. Well, that oneness of the king with the kingdom is kind of what you want to say there. Then I want you to take these contradictions and tie them together to show how that is establishing the character of this scheming king. So if we look at the second one, therefore our sometime sister, now our queen, again, I want you to weave this into the argument. This directly implicates the past between Claudius and Gertrude, being that she was married to Hamlet Sr., but as soon as he died, he married his brother to keep power of the kingdom to a certain extent, shows the connection to jointress of this warlike state. Qualify that, explain this. What's that mean? The sometime sister is what conveys the slight incest by default that went on between them. I think you need to clarify that. Say that differently, even if they weren't directly related. Why would Claudius call attention to this? King has such charming qualities that he has had the ability to steal his brother's wife as soon as he had the opportunity. Yeah, but you wouldn't make that public. So there's got to be some other reason for that. Is he aware that other people might see this as incest, and is he trying to diffuse it? I think you should go with that tactic on this one. Have we as twere with a defeated joy, with an auspicious and a dropping eye, considering that auspicious means hopeful for the future, and dropping eye air, I think that's a typo, could relate to one looking down in disappointment, contradicts itself. Well, don't tell me it contradicts itself, right? It's a contradiction, sure. But why is that? Why might that be paradoxically true? Or why would he want it to be paradoxically true? If we don't believe him, it's an oxymoron. If we do, it's a paradox. Especially, since the previous line is about the defeated joy. Now, Claudius is powerful in a way because if he can convince those he rules to be happy even at moments of anger, well, there we dropping eye isn't about anger, right? And I think you've nailed here exactly why he's making this speech. He wants public opinion on his side. So how would this balancing of defeated joy, auspicious, dropping eye, we've got these images of, and here he's got them in reverse order, defeated joy, auspicious, dropping, right? We have these opposites that suggest happiness, but then at the same time, defeated, dropping, that's negative. Well, you can't be too happy about being king at the expense of your dead brother. So bring that out with that quote and why he has to balance this to gain that public opinion. With mirth in funeral and with dirge in marriage. Easily assumed main purpose is to express the overwhelming happiness Claudius felt when his yeah, but that's not why he would say it publicly, because he'd want to turn us away from that and deceive us out of thinking that he's happy about that. And then the only following negative point is the melancholic feel to the wedding. Well, it is following right after the funeral, so that suggestion there, well, there's happiness to sort of ameliorate the funeral, the mourning for the dead king, and there is some sadness to take some of the joy out of the wedding, uh, and tie that directly to dead King Hamlet and to the marriage to Gertrude. And how he might, again, that public sphere, why might he have to say that? And in this, I want you to pull these things together into that description of Claudius. Why does that show his verbal skill? Why does it show his charm, as you mentioned earlier? Weighing delight and dole. Happy, there's that happy sad again. Taken to wife. Things can be both sad and happy at the same time. This looks like, oh, now here you've got the delight and dole integrated into here. That's good. Keep it. Goes against itself, but makes sense for Claudius, thinking about how there was good and bad to his brother's death. Well, yeah, it works on that level. Give me the public level as well. You can talk about that being underneath it, but make sure you give me the public purpose as well. His loss, but his gain in becoming king. Right? What is it? There you want to make explicit the brother. And you can tie those other quotes that you've used that talk about happy sadness together there. Protagonists are essential characters in books, novels, plays. Don't start with protagonist. Describing the literary term leaves us a bit cold. In Hamlet by Shakespeare, one of the antagonists could be his uncle, the new king. This looks like an introduction. You might want to put this on top of the whole piece. In Hamlet, one of the antagonists, not one of the antagonist is his uncle. Now, we want something like this at the beginning of the whole document, and a nice hook that talks about the scheming monarch who has to hold private fears, right? It's something that will give us the overview of Claudius' character, starting with the quality rather than the literary term. We want to use words like protagonist, antagonist. We want to weave them in further down into our body paragraphs. Speech, and this is the speech that he's having privately with Hamlet, so it's not public the way the previous one was. Speech make his character seem more discouraged than the first scene. Is he discouraged? There is a different tone. I'm not sure if discouraged is what you want to say, though. Creates the anticipation of what else is to become of the new king of Denmark. That's leading. I don't know where that's going. Two different strategies can be classified. How he expresses ultimate message to Hamlet. Brings up the father as if trying to make him feel guilty. Yes, put a quote in there to support that. Uses Denmark and its people to bring about a weakness by playing. Yeah, this, I'm not sure where you get that, but if you can support it with a quote from the text, do it. By speaking of Hamlet Sr. in the way that he does, quote, in fact, get rid of in the way that he does, replace it with a quote. But you must know your father lost a father. I would put this quote right up there. And we've got a lot of quote there. We could probably cut that quote a bit. Just as others have lost their fathers, does not mean that Hamlet shouldn't be allowed to mourn his. Well, actually, for Claudius, wants to stop Hamlet from mourning his father. What's the point? Why is he trying to do that? Referencing how Hamlet may not be sad in reality, however, just accomplishing his duties as the son of one who has passed. This looks like it could be cleaned up here. Son of the son is not, I think, what you're trying to say. The son of one who passed, and overly dragging the dark clothes and tears and whatnot. Let's get rid of whatnot. But that idea of formality of mourning and not, you don't really have to be sad. I think you can bring that out with the quote from the text. Although it may not seem ethical, Hamlet could fall for the psychology being used. Yeah, that's what I want, the psychology being used. How is Claudius manipulating Hamlet here? Show it in the quotations and show how he does it. Little more quote, but little quotes in here. The other way the king sets his ways upon young Hamlet is by bringing in the kingdom of Denmark as a whole. What's that? Bringing in the kingdom of Denmark as a whole. He speaks of his obligation as heir to the throne, how he cannot and should not have the expectation of leaving as he pleases the school in Wittenberg. It is a known fact that everything falls, Claudius emphasizes. I don't get that. For we must know his common. Now you're back to the father. Put this point with the father section, right? When you're talking about why you shouldn't be mourning the father. Because here that idea of keeping him close, I think merits a separate argument. Low class and happens often must be what we thought we knew. I'm not following that. This one quote can be difficult to depict, which is why it would so subconsciously coerce a young man such as Hamlet to not fully consider the extent and consequences of his actions. I would clean up. I cut it and tie this more closely to the text. I think you have something here about more of that logic of why you shouldn't be mourning your father that I think you can move up. And this, you either have to clarify, support with quotes, and make it clear, because it's not ringing true to me right now. As the king, he has that natural power that let him have his way time after time. He puts himself in the position as father to Hamlet when saying, and with no less nobility of love than which dearest fathers bear his son do I impart toward you, replacing the senior and creating the thought of having somewhere there. Yeah, how can we say that? Well, you've said it a little bit up here, putting himself in the position as father to Hamlet. I think that's a really important idea. That idea of Claudius offering himself as a father to Hamlet. Oh, you miss your father? Let me be your father. I'm your daddy now, right? There's something really sort of sinister about that, and you can mention that, but it's a tactic. Strunk and White told us that comma goes within that quote, so do that every time. Placing the senior, creating the thought of having someone there for him in his ways of conduct, and you could pack a couple of those places. He says in several places and in several different ways that he can be the father that Hamlet's missing. And why would that help to keep Hamlet under control and ultimately serve Claudius's goal of consolidating power? I think you need to make overt in your argument here.